Hey guys, PretzelMan945 here. Welcome back to another video. Um, in today's video, I am going to be making a um update to a list which accompanies a video which I made a very long time ago. We are talking like 4.5 years ago. Um, This top 10 books list was from like April of 2021 is when I first recorded it. Obviously, the date will not show that because I made my channel public in January of 2023. Um, but that does not really matter because I implore you, do not go watch that video. Um, I just rewatched that video because I was kind of curious. The list itself isn't that bad. In fact, on this updated list, I still have many of the same books. But the video just sucks. Not like this type of video is going to be any kind of high quality recording. I mean, I'm literally just sitting in front of a laptop webcam and just yapping about books. But that's how all my videos are. But this one was just it was 16-year-old me um sitting on my bed and recording with my phone for some reason because that was a thing you could like record a video on your phone and upload it directly. That feature did not last very long though. It was a cool thing while it lasted, but anyway, that's enough yapping. My point is, do not go watch the old video. It's not worth it. It's not a great video. Um, and instead just refer to this video if you want to know what my favorite books are. But anyway, let's actually kick off the list, shall we? Um, and number 10 is the Iliad. So, the Odyssey was on my old list, and the only reason it is not on this list is because um, I have not read it since ninth grade. Therefore, I don't really remember much about it. I would love to reread it at some point, and honestly, it might even make the list again. But what is in its place this time is the other famous Homeric poem, the Iliad. Now, the Iliad is a book that I read for an ancient Greece class that I'm taking in college currently in this semester. It's a very cool class. Um, and reading the Iliad as a part of it was a very cool experience because not only did I learn a lot about sort of like what the actual story of it is and also like learned how many myths that I thought I knew about this story are just straight up not true at all. Like the fact that like Achilles dying by being got in the ankle, that is entirely myth. Also, he doesn't even end up dying in the story of the Iliad. So learning that plus a bunch of other things was just a fascinating experience. But also, um, you know, well, for one thing, it was interesting to kind of explore this book from a semi-historical perspective because obviously it's a epic poem, so it's not going to be really grounded in reality. But there are interesting parallels that you could make between the Iliad and what archaic age Greeks kind of like how they kind of referred to themselves and their own values of honor in society during that time. But that's the nerdy ass reason to like the Iliad as a story. The biggest reason why I and why most people probably love the Iliad is because it has like such incredible descriptive writing where um like it this perhaps out of any other book I've ever read has um well no not the best but like some of the best descriptive writing in terms of like the sheer ease it is the sheer ease I have in just vividly imagining a scene just based on the words on the page. Um, and that aspect of it is just absolutely incredible. Also, the main dynamic of Achilles and Hector is such a captivating dynamic, and I know I made my top 10 dynamics in fiction list back in like August or something, but Achilles and Hector is for sure somewhere on that list. I don't know exactly where yet because I haven't like taken another good look at that list in a while, but it's definitely like somewhere on that list, I would say. Both characters have really interesting arcs, and they also have really interesting sort of ties to the main theme of honor within the story. And I think that both of them are just excellently written characters. Um, and number nine is a book called He Who Became the Sun. Now, I'm not a huge historical fiction reader, but this book is just really cool because I'm a big fan of Chinese history. I think it's one of the coolest kinds of history, and it's my second favorite behind Roman history. Um, Now what this book is it is a sort of historical fiction retelling of the story of how the first emperor of the Ming Dynasty comes into power and orchestrates the collapse of the Yuan dynasty. Um, and the main way that it does this is by sort of taking an interpretation that the main character being the future emperor, who would be a he based on history, is um in this story and this version of the tale is a she who sort of covers up her identity and whatnot, and it sort of creates some interesting dynamics when it's like compared to the actual historical fact. Um and it's just such a cool idea for a book in my opinion. Um and I think that like, the way that um the the Ming Emperor's character journey is written is very well done, even in spite of the fact this is just retelling a story, um, a story from history. So in that respect, I think it is a very, very well done book. And for anyone interested in Chinese history in the slightest, I highly recommend giving this book a read. Um, in the number eight spot is Animal Farm. Now, you want to talk about historical fiction books. Animal Farm is not exactly that, but it's like somewhere along those lines where it's like it's a satire that is based on a historical event or series of events that was happening during that time. This being um sort of the Soviet Union during the 1930s and 1940s. Um and the simple idea of just kind of comparing the farm animals to the to like fucking communist Russia is such a fascinating and creative idea. And I think it's done so well in terms of like intermixing all of these elements. And even if you don't know anything about what this is trying to be a satire of, it is still an extremely entertaining book that has such a cool like plot idea that sort of mixes together and gives so much depth and characterization to all the different animal members on the farm and how they kind of all sort of represent different perspectives, I guess, and seeing how those sort of come together, how they tend to fight each other, and like the ultimate outcome of the book is just really interesting. So, like I said, if you don't know anything about the contents of the book, or I mean the contents of the history surrounding it that it's supposed to be a satire of, it's still an extremely entertaining story. And like the way that it manages to kind of serve both of these purposes, I think just makes it a fantastic book that I will always be a big fan of. And number seven is Mass Effect Retribution. So a little bit of lore. I tried playing the first Mass Effect. I could not really get into the game. However, I have always been a fan of the trilogy of Mass Effect books that were written in counterpart to the games by Drew Karpyshyn, who was also like one of the lead writers on the game itself. Um, and he did the same thing with a bunch of other BioWare games as well. Um, uh, And this book is the third book in the trilogy, and the reason why it has always been my favorite is because it is the sort of culmination of a ton of plot lines and character arc from the previous two books. And yet, unlike the previous two books, it feels like it is much more clearly paced and doesn't have as much padding in its story. Uh, which was my personal biggest issue with the second book in the trilogy, Annihilation, I think it was called. Um, This book, I just think, has the cleanest elements of what makes Drew Karpyshyn's Mass Effect trilogy very, very good. And I think it is the best paced book in the trilogy, and I think it is a very, very enjoyable read. Um, and number six is The Kite Runner. This is a fantastically human story. Um, that feels like it has such real characters and yet it has such a good story too. Like there were plot twists that made me legitimately like yell out loud because of how shocked I was. And obviously, that might not seem that common, especially considering like how much I talk about manga like 20th Century Boys, which have that like basically every minute of reading it. But like with books, it's kind of a bigger deal for me because that doesn't tend to happen as much when I read books in specific. Um and just all the characters in this book, but especially the main character, just um they go through such human problems and all of their character arcs have such human resolutions, and that's just really what I love about this book is like how much of a fantastic um human read it is in terms of its like understanding all of the characters. And I guarantee you, because it did the same thing for me, this book will change the way that you think about the Middle East as a whole, because it did exactly the same for me. I'm not going to get into how because I feel like that would be sort of running into political territory, and I do not want to go there when I'm talking about pool. Excuse me. The number five is the Silmarillion. Now, as has been referenced by previous videos, I am a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. It is one of my favorite. It's my fourth favorite work of fiction of all time. And it's got my second favorite world in fiction, only behind Star Wars, of course. It is the sort of peak of and best defined example of what I call high fantasy, Western fantasy, whatever term you want to use. Um, and so, as probably has been made obvious by this video, I love history. And this book is essentially a Lord of the Rings history book. And literally, you can't get any closer to a green book combination than that for me. At least it would be very, very hard to, in my opinion. Um, all of the history in this book and the insanely massive ways in which it expands all lore aspects of the world of Middle Earth is just ridiculous because it literally adds a whole other part of the world into the lore, this being Beleriand, and just seeing all of the lore, but also how well written like certain particular side stories are within it. It also proves that it isn't just a sort of like dry history textbook for Lord of the Rings because um the story of Turin Turambar is probably the most tragic story that Tolkien has ever written, in my opinion. And like Beren and Luthien is a very cool romance story, and sort of the way that both their characters struggle against Sauron, or sorry, Morgoth and the Silmarils is just it's fascinating. And yeah, this book is just incredible. Um, and speaking of Lord of the Rings, at number four is The Two Towers. The Two Towers is my favorite Lord of the Ring book, and as much as I enjoy the movie, I think that the book is the only case where it is better than the movie. I think both Return of the King of Fellowship of the Ring and the movies are better than the books, because they just kind of are better paced and cut out a lot of padding. Um, Whereas this book, I think it actually has a lot of extra content that the movie does not, which just makes this book better. It's just a better read. And of course, I praised Tolkien's style of authorship a lot on this channel, so I don't feel like that is necessarily worth going into more explicit detail about. Um, because of course his writing style is genius. Um, and yeah, that's why The Two Towers is my favorite book. Because I think it's just a better version of the movie. And number three, this is from a franchise that has not been talked about so far on this in this video. That being The Witcher. So I made a video about my review of Witcher season four, and I absolutely loved it. Um, might be the best season of that show so far, which is really hard to say because all the seasons have been amazing to me. Um, hmm, excuse me. Kind of late, so I'm gonna go to bed after I record this video. Um, and um, of course, this season, season four of the Witcher TV show, I was very excited for it because it adapted my favorite Witcher book, which is the number three spot in this list, and that book is Baptism of Fire. Now, I could have definitely included other Witcher books in my top 10. The only reason I didn't is because I wanted a little bit of variety in terms of the sort of choice of books that I chose, but I could have very easily, like, had two of these slots go to Tower of Swallows and The Lady of the Lake as well. Um, but the reason why this book is my favorite is because of several reasons. Number one, I love the establishment of the Lodge of Sorceresses, and I think that that is great for Yennefer's character. Number two, I absolutely adore every single character that Geralt's group travels with, and I think that um the interactions between them really cause them all to become really good friends and just seeing all of their interactions as they travel together, but also Geralt's development into a much more emotional character is very palpable and powerful within this book. Regis is just the fucking goat on so many levels. He just he just like he is just the best. Uh, oh, no, I spilled um water on my shirt. That's great. Okay, anyway, Regis is just the GOAT. He's just the best. I love his energy. I love his character as a vampire. I love everything about Regis. He is easily my favorite character besides Ciri in The Witcher. Um, and he is definitely my favorite member of Geralt's group that gets introduced in this book. And then of course you have Ciri's storyline with the rats, which is extremely compelling because Ciri just gets incredible development being sort of by herself in a very toxic yet um comfortable environment with the rats where some of them want to exploit her, many of them don't trust her. Her lover is manipulating her a lot of the time, but he is also doing the same thing back, which leads to just a lot of like very messy dynamics and just seeing series development through that is just incredible on so many levels. And when you combine all of those aspects in addition to Sapkowski's incredible descriptive writing, it just makes this book such a blast to read and easily my favorite out of the Witcher books. Um, and number two, um, is Darth Plagueis. Now, this and the number one book were both Star Wars books that really got me into reading Star Wars Legends. And the thing that I love about this book in particular is um, just how it spans so much time and adds so much context to the entire lore of Star Wars, but especially when it comes to two things. This being the timeline leading up to and throughout the Phantom Menace and the rest of the prequels for that matter. But number two, um, it takes a very interesting approach and it explains so much more about midi-chlorians and the Force. And I feel like with this book being written, people who complain about midi-chlorians not making much sense as a concept, I feel like this book is the perfect thing to explain to people that don't understand that part of it. Okay, I had to get some more water. Um, so when I say that this book connects to the Phantom Menace in such a good way, um, what I'm referring to is the way that um like Darth Plagueis as a character is the one that trains Sidious. We get to there's so much more given to the character of Sidious. We see how like Sidious's backgrounds, how he becomes the way he is, and it makes him just a much more interesting character than he already was, and he was already very cool. And after after doing this, it also like kind of connects a lot of other things to the plot, such as like Dooku's sort of dissatisfaction with the Order, how Palpatine kind of establishes a lot of the people that become part of an inner circle, such as Janice Grigatus, and Masameda, and a bunch of other characters while as a senator. It's a really interesting change to kind of pick up on. Um, and once again, like I said, the aspects of midichlorians and the Force is also just fascinating. And James Luceno's descriptive writing is just top here, truly. Like there are just lines in Darth Plagueis that just make the book come alive based on the words. It is just incredible. Um, but at number one, and I think this will always be my favorite book of all time, it's Darth Bane Path of Destruction. It's the first in a trilogy and by far the best of that trilogy, even though the other books are pretty solid. This one clears like by far. The plot is so satisfying. Um, to see Bane's character development and sort of see how him acclimating to various ways in the Sith before he becomes a Sith seriously tended to help him out, and how he uses those same basic skills of like cunning and deceit, which are such a natural fit for the dark side, to be able to advance as a student. And what I also love about this book, lore wise, is that not only does it like concern the formation of the ruler, which is like such a pivotal part of like understanding the Sith and their philosophy. Um, to see Bane kind of come to his own logic and invent that on his own, it's just the character progression is so satisfying, and um the plot structure is also just very well done. Um, and man, this book has the best descriptive writing out of any book I've ever read. I was on the fence about the Elite, and that ranks up there, but this book just takes number one in that category, and it's not even super close. I The only way that I can describe reading some of the passages in this book is just electrifying in terms of like how vividly the details come to your head when you are reading this book. And I just love everything about it, and that's why it is my favorite book of all time. Well, yeah, thank you very much for watching. As always, let me know your favorite books in the comments below, and let me know if you agree with my list or if you think it's shit. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.